Hello and welcome to the Monday Night Football DFS slate breakdown between the Bills at the Jets. It's going to be an interesting game. We got a close one, 40.5 total, 1 point home dogs for the Jets. So we will jump right in. But before we do, come join us at LineStar. Next week is the start of NBA. We have NFL in full swing. We got playoff baseball. It's the best time to be a DFS player or a prop bettor. We do have the pick'ems as well, or the props as well as all the DFS tools. So come get involved. We got lots of ways to join us. 7-day free trial through the app stores, Android or iOS if you've never used us before. It's the easiest way to try us out for free. Now, let's get into the slate. Let's go. Let's have a day. Let's make some money. Starting on the good old DraftKings showdown contest with quarterbacks. Josh Allen, 2K more than Aaron Rodgers, and he is coming in at a little higher owned. My main thing today is I think Josh Allen's going to try and put his Bills on his back and take them to victory, which generally means more rushing upside, more use around the goal line, possible rushing touchdowns. And so I do really like Josh Allen today. I do have to say, however, that his floor has been real low with this squad. The receivers are really beat up today. So it's a real tough spot. Aaron Rodgers, while he hasn't been good, has at least been consistently putting up mid-teens, but he just has no ceiling. So we're in like an interesting catch-22. I think you can use Josh Allen as a MVP or a captain, whereas I don't think I would use Aaron Rodgers in that role. So I don't mind either guy. Obviously, quarterbacks are kind of centerpieces for the showdown, but both are in play today. Josh Allen is the better captain play. Aaron Rodgers, a little higher floor, but a lower ceiling. Let's check out good old FanDuel. 3,500 difference on pricing over here. Both of them 1.x value. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we have ownership up for FanDuel quite yet. All right, on to matchup tool. It's a tough matchup for both quarterbacks, as we would have expected. On to running backs here. So Breece Hall coming at 57% owned. Clearly, he is the top option in this backfield. What I think is interesting is James Cook, you kind of look at as a bell cow, but yet he's really playing 50 to 60% of snaps. He's not really getting over that. He's also a little banged up, but his usage is still very high for the lower snap rate. I just don't think him being $800 more than Breece Hall makes that much sense. Breece Hall is coming off a couple very tough games. So his price is down a little bit, but I think he is in the better matchup. So I firmly believe that Breece Hall is the one to go. Now, Braylon Allen has had a couple very solid games as the RB2, but he's playing 30% of the snaps. So he is a very expensive RB2 playing 30% of the snaps, whereas Ty Johnson is actually playing around the same amount. He's just not getting quite as much work. So I don't mind going to Ty, but it is definitely pretty much James Cook or bust, or Breece Hall or bust. Braylon Allen does have a better chance of a touchdown than Ty Johnson or Ray Davis. But, 5,400 for a chance of the touchdown is kind of a lot. And on FanDuel, pricing is very similar, but Braylon Allen is 2K more than Ty Johnson, which is quite a lot considering they are really playing similar amount of snaps. The only more upside that Braylon has a little more chance of getting some goal line carries than Ty Johnson does. So Moving over to the running back matchup tool, clearly Breece Hall has the better matchup. 32nd versus RB1 for the Buffalo, whereas the Jets rank second. So Breece Hall is definitely where you want to go running back wise. Now over to wide receiver. So we got Garrett Wilson, who's just been an absolute target hog, and he has 60% of the snaps, or 66% of ownership. He's coming off a 22 target game. This is a game that they were down and just had to throw a ton. Now, I don't expect anywhere near 22 targets again, but he had himself a day. He is in another tough matchup here versus the Jets. And as the WR1 that is trusted and Aaron Rodgers is likely to going to go to him a lot, I'm very much in on him. Next, Allen Lazard has actually been playing very similar amount of snaps as Garrett Wilson. He's been out there a ton, and I think that continues in this spot. He also has 8 red zone targets to Garrett Wilson's 9. So in a showdown format like this, where he's out there so much, he's getting similar red zone looks, I think you very much need to consider Allen Lazard at 7,200, less ownership, way less priced, and a little bit softer matchup for Lazard. So definitely interested in him. Mike Williams did play the most snaps he's played all season last year. He got up to 71%. I think it was like 54 snaps. Again, he is the third receiver. He probably played a little extra because they were down, trying to chuck the ball a little bit more. But he, unfortunately, has just kind of been an afterthought in this offense. I still do think that they are slowly working him up. Maybe there's a little bit of a change this week with the coaching changes here, but all in all, most likely outcome is he's still the third wide receiver, and he still has to build some rapport with Aaron Rodgers, because right now he is actually more like the fourth or fifth passing option on this team, because Tyler Conklin and Breece Hall are all getting targets as well. Now, all right, and now let's get to the Bills side of the equation here, and it is a total mess. So Khalil Shakir is questionable. He missed last week. He's been limited in practice, I think, on Friday or Saturday. Then you have Curtis Samuel, Mac Hollins, who were limited in practice this week. Both of them are going to play, but they're obviously playing through something. Curtis Samuel had toe turf through the preseason. Then you got Keon Coleman, who is at least playing the most amount of snaps for everybody, but it's been hard to really get him targets. 5 targets, 4, 1, 1, 5. He hasn't really been a big force in this offense, and he's hard to trust in a very tough matchup versus the Jets. Then after him and after Shakir, you got 3 guys in the 2Ks who, you know, it's kind of like a roulette wheel where, you know, Mac Hollins is going to play a little bit more, but he kind of just does cardio. Then you have Curtis Samuel, who's going to play yet less, but hasn't done much this season. I think out of all the options on the Bills, Shakir is my favorite if he plays, but then you have to question if he's going to be limited. I think it's going to be very, very hard to decide which Bills receivers to play. However, if you get it right, there is big time upside in that spot, because the ownership on all of them are going to be low. So somebody in these big contests are going to have it. Hopefully it's you. Unfortunately, I don't have a real hard tell on who it's going to be. I would probably be going to Shakir at this point, hoping he plays, hoping his ownership still stays so low, and, you know, kind of pay up to get different kind of spot for me with them. In on FanDuel, Keon Coleman is 10K, which is wild to me. Khalil Shakir is 11.5. Once again, he is my favorite option, but I would rather Garrett Wilson or Allen Lazard over them. But you likely have to play a Bills receiver in some of your lineups, and Shakir is probably my favorite in that bunch. If we go over to the matchup tool, Keon Coleman, it does look like has the best matchup as the wide receiver 1 for the Jets, but he is tough to trust for me. And then outside of that, the rest of the Buffalo receivers have pretty poor matchups. Now, getting over to the tight end spot, we have Tyler Conklin, 54% owned. He is 4K. I like him quite a lot in this spot. He is definitely one of my favorite plays, and 4K is way too cheap for him. So you can definitely fire him up. And then you have Dalton Kincaid. He is 8,200. The Bills are all priced up in this matchup. They're all coming in lower ownership because of that, and you're going to have to take some swings. I think Kincaid, with the mix-up and, banged up receiving core, could see some extra love. 6 targets, 7 targets, 5, 4, 2. He's at least a little bit more involved and involved similarly to Keon Coleman, but has, higher efficiency rate targets than Keon Coleman, where a lot of Colemans are down the field and, the rate of which those hit are way lower. So I am interested in Kincaid, and he's probably my favorite pass catcher in this spot. The Jets, it shows, tight end third. They're third versus the tight end this year, but that is a little bit misleading. Outside of George Kittle, they haven't really played anybody at tight end, so I'm fine with going to Dalton Kincaid. And if we look at our team matchup tool, we have the Jets being good, but I do think it is a little hard to tell with that data just because they haven't really faced anybody. Tyler Conklin, meanwhile, in a spot where the Bills are 21st versus tight end, so wheels up for him. And then on to FanDuel. Kincaid is way more expensive. With him coming in less owned, I will definitely have some of him. I also should probably throw out that, Dawson Knox is absolutely a possibility for a red zone touchdown. So don't forget about him at 1.6 on DK. Now, let's get into defenses here. Look, we have a 40.5 game total. Both offenses haven't looked good, and both of them are going to try and throw a little bit. So I think the defenses are absolutely in play here. I do I don't really prefer either defense in this matchup. I think the Jets are a little bit, as far as an offense, we don't totally know what they're going to do. They have their new play caller, so we don't know if it's going to be more of the same or if anything is really going to change in this spot. Most likely, I would expect them to try to air it out a little bit more and put the ball into Aaron Rodgers' hand more. But so far, that hasn't really worked too well. So all in all, both defenses are in play. I think it's going to be a tough game to score, a tough time to really move the ball for either team, which means defense or kicker are firmly in play on these showdown games. And I would prefer probably Tyler Bass over Zerline. However, both guys are absolutely in play. I just think that the Bills have higher likelihood of being able to move the ball down the field. But I think both teams will struggle when it comes to the red zone, and that is why I think both kickers are firmly in play in this matchup, as it really comes down to what happens when they get onto the opponent's side of the field. I think both defenses are good enough to really slow down the offenses as a whole. That'll do it for us today, guys. Not the most exciting game, but there is definitely some money to win. You guys have a good one, and I will be back later this week. Peace.